Hi, it's Mark Donegan, host of the Marketing Execution Podcast. A lot of founders confuse high standards with perfectionism, but they're not the same thing. High standards create a flywheel, better products, happier customers, stronger revenue, and the kind of talent every startup wants. But the real challenge is that most teams don't know how to build that system. After years of helping tech companies raise their execution standards, I've seen this pattern again and again. In this episode, we'll talk about how to build your own standard of excellence, one that actually scales. Let's dive in.
Tune in, listen up, it's marketing time. Bright ideas sparking, growing your mind. From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Welcome to the Marketing Execution Podcast. This is the show for tech founders and leaders building B2B products and technologies. We show you how to go further, faster to get the business results you need.
From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
You know, Mark, I was thinking about this phrase we hear all the time in the startup world, high standards. It's almost become this empty platitude, right? Something every founder claims to have. But when I was reading your guide about elevating your startup, it hit me that maybe we're thinking about it all wrong.
Oh yeah, how so? Because you're right, it's a total buzzword. Every job description says we have a culture of excellence and high standards. Most of the time, that just means they're going to overwork you.
Exactly. But this guide, it made this point that high standards aren't something you have, they're something you teach. That just, they reframed the entire concept for me. It's not innate talent, it's a learnable skill.
Yes. Okay. You just landed on the most important, most overlooked secret in company building. It's the whole ball game. So many founders I've talked to, they believe people are either A players with high standards or they're not. And that is fundamentally 100% wrong.
So you can actually train someone to have higher standards? How does that even work in practice?
Totally. It's about exposure and expectation. Think about it. Reid Hoffman has that famous quote, "The fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with people who are already the way you want to be." It's the same principle inside a company. First you have to show them what good looks like. You create a library of what you consider to be excellent work, an amazing sales deck, a perfect customer support email, a beautifully written piece of code.
So you're creating a yardstick, like Steve Jobs said.
Precisely. And then you talk about it constantly. You review work and you say, okay, this is good, but here's an example of what great looks like. Let's talk about the gap. You're not criticizing the person, you're coaching their eye for quality. It's like what Airbnb did with their 1% better every day philosophy. Teach them a process of incremental improvement instead of demanding perfection overnight.
Okay, that makes sense. But if I teach my engineer to have incredibly high standards for writing code, does that mean they'll suddenly have high standards for, say, writing marketing copy?
Absolutely not. And that is the second massive mistake founders make. They think high standards are universal. They're not. They are intensely, and I mean intensely, domain specific.
Domain specific. Unpack that for me.
I once heard about a company, a brilliant engineering-led company, right? Their code was a work of art, truly exceptional. But their website copy, it looked like it was written by an engineer who didn't know marketing. The standards were sky high in one domain and completely on the floor in another. They didn't even know what good looked like for marketing.
Wow. Yeah, I can picture that.
It's why Stripe is such a monster. The Collison brothers didn't just have high standards for payments. They had an obsessive, domain-specific high standard for the developer experience. They knew that world inside and out. They learned what good looked like for an API, for documentation, for developer support. And they aimed to be 10 times better. That's a conscious choice, not a personality trait. You have to learn the specifics of each domain.
So, as a founder, I need to not only teach what high standards are, but I also have to be a student myself in all these different areas: marketing, sales, product, operations.
Or, and this is key, you assemble a team that has those skills collectively. Patty McCord from Netflix said, the best perk you can give an employee is other A players to work with. That's part of it. You hire people who bring their own domain-specific high standards with them. They infect the rest of the team with that knowledge. It's contagious. This is why we even do the Marketing Execution podcast, right? To help founders see what good looks like in marketing and go-to-market.
Okay, so this is all landing for me, but I have to ask the practical question. This all sounds slow and expensive. Creating libraries of good work, coaching everyone, learning new domains, a founder is already drowning. How do you implement this without just grinding everything to a halt?
Oh, man, that is the million-dollar question. And the answer is probably the most painful lesson for ambitious founders. You have to get realistic about the scope and effort required. One of the biggest killers of a high standards culture is underestimating how long it takes to do great work.
You set your team up to fail.
You set them up to fail, exactly. You say, I want a world-class blog post, and then you give the writer 1 day to do it. It's impossible. What you'll get is a mediocre post, the writer will feel defeated, and you'll think they don't have high standards. But the problem wasn't them, it was your plan.
So the solution is better project management, basically?
It's more than that. It's a philosophical commitment to reality. It's breaking projects down, using data from past projects to estimate timelines, building in buffer time for iteration, because great work is never right on the first try. It's about creating a culture where someone can raise their hand and say, hey, to do this right, I need another week. And they're celebrated for that honesty, not punished.
That feels so counterintuitive to the move fast and break things mantra.
It is. But move fast and break things doesn't mean move fast and ship crap. It means learn quickly. And sometimes learning quickly means taking the time to do something properly, measure the result, and know for sure if it worked. Rushing half-finished work out the door teaches you nothing. It just creates noise and kills morale. Validating the scope and effort is the work. It's not the thing you do before the work starts. It's the most important part of it.
That's a huge mindset shift. So it's not just about the output, but about respecting the process it takes to get to a high quality output. Okay, this makes so much sense for the internal team. But how do you start communicating these high standards externally to your first 100 customers?
That's where the whole thing becomes real, isn't it? Because your internal culture, it's just a theory until a customer experiences it. Your first 100 customers don't read your company handbook. They feel your standards in every single interaction.
Feel them how, though? You can't just put, "We have high standards" on your landing page. Nobody would believe you.
Oh man, no. That's the worst thing you could do. No, you have to show them. It goes back to that classic Paul Graham essay, do things that don't scale. The unscalable thing you have to do at the start is manually recruit your first users. That's not just about getting signups. It is the single best opportunity to communicate your standard.
So you're saying the act of recruiting them is the communication?
Exactly. I know the founder. For their first 50 customers, he personally did every single onboarding call himself over Zoom. He'd spend an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, not just showing them the software, but understanding their world, their problems, what they were trying to achieve. The message wasn't, here's our product. The message was, we care enough to spend 90 minutes making sure this works for you. That is a high standard. You feel that. It's unforgettable.
Wow. Yeah, you can't fake that kind of commitment. And those first 50 people, I mean, they probably became fanatics.
They become your marketing department. And you just stumbled onto the whole reason this matters so much. It's not about being a perfectionist. It's about starting a virtuous cycle. It's a flywheel that once it gets going is almost impossible to stop.
A virtuous cycle. What do you mean?
Look, it's simple, right? You deliver an exceptional experience, a better product, better service, whatever, and you get happier customers. That's step one. What do happy customers do?
They tell their friends, word of mouth.
They scream it from the rooftops. So that positive word of mouth brings in more customers and more revenue. Now you have more money. What can you do? You can invest. You hire better people. You buy better tools. And that better talent and those better resources, they allow you to build an even better product and deliver an even better experience.
Oh, I see. And the whole thing it feeds on itself. It snowballs.
It's the engine of growth. That's why this isn't some fluffy, nice to have cultural thing. High standards are a core business strategy. It's how you build a moat around your company that competitors just can't cross because they're not willing to do the hard, unscalable work you did at the beginning. They can't replicate the goodwill you built.
Okay, but this brings up a fear I think a lot of founders have. I know I've felt it. When you're just starting, your product is, well, it's buggy. It's incomplete. If you go out with this high standards message, even if you're showing it through your actions, aren't you just setting yourself up to disappoint people when they hit a bug or a missing feature?
Yeah, that's a super valid fear, but it comes from a misunderstanding of what high standards means to a customer. They don't expect perfection from a startup. They know you're new. What they do expect is a high standard response when things go wrong.
Ah, so the standard isn't about having 0 bugs. It's about how you fix the bugs.
Yes, it's about your honesty, your speed, and your communication. A customer reports a bug and you write back in 10 minutes saying, "Oh, wow, you found something. Thank you. My engineer is looking at this right now. I'll have an update for you within the hour." That interaction builds more loyalty than if the bug never happened in the first place. It shows you care. It proves your standards are real. It turns a potential problem into a massive relationship building moment.
That makes so much sense. You're turning every interaction, good or bad, into proof of your commitment. Okay, I'm sold on the why. The virtuous cycle, the focus on commitment over perfection. This is the foundation. So let's get into the weeds. In your guide, you have this framework, this elevate framework. Walk me through how a founder can actually start doing this.
Okay, let's get into how people can actually use this stuff.
Yes, let's do it. I'm ready. So, elevate. Where does a founder even begin with a framework like that? It sounds big.
It sounds big, but you start small. You start with the first E for educate. But forget about writing some big mission statement. Nobody reads that. You have to make it real.
Show, don't tell.
Exactly. So here's your Monday morning task. The first step: find one concrete example of excellence in your field. Just one. It could be a screenshot of a competitor's onboarding flow that you think is brilliant, or a support email you received that just blew you away.
Okay, so you find an example, then what?
You share it with your team on Slack, and an email, whatever, and you write one sentence. You say, "This is what a high standard looks like for customer communication," or "This is the quality bar for our design." You make good a tangible thing they can see and feel, not an abstract idea.
That's so simple. It's like a coach showing game tape of the perfect play, not just talking about winning.
That's exactly it. You give them a picture of the goal. But then, and this is where most people trip up, they think that one standard applies to everything. It doesn't.
Oh, right, because you can be good at one thing, but not another.
Precisely. That brings us to L, learn domain specifics. High standards are domain specific. You can have an amazing engineering team that writes the cleanest code on earth, but your marketing copy could be, well, terrible.
Now, I've seen that movie before. A lot.
We all have. Think about Stripe. When they started, they didn't try to have the best Super Bowl ads or the flashiest office. They focused their obsession on one domain: the developer experience. Their API documentation became the gold standard. It was clean, simple, and it just worked. That was their high standard.
And the developers loved them for it. It built their entire reputation.
It built their entire company. So the second action for founder is to ask your team, what is the one domain where we must be world-class to win? Is it the product's user interface? Is it the speed of your support? Pick one and then go study the absolute best in the world at that specific thing. That's your new benchmark.
Okay, so you show them what good looks like, and then you define the one area where you have to be amazing. That feels manageable, but what about the actual work? I mean, this stuff takes time.
It does, and that's maybe the most practical part of this whole thing. It's V, validate scope and effort. High standards die when you don't give them oxygen, and oxygen is time.
So you can't say we have high standards and then give people an impossible deadline.
You can't. It's a total contradiction. It's like telling someone to paint a masterpiece, but they only have 5 minutes and a dried up brush. You're setting them up to fail. You have to be realistic about what it takes to do great work. For example, the software company Buffer, they are famous for their transparency. When they change something, they often share the whole process, the timeline, the work involved. They show that quality work takes real effort.
It manages expectations for the team and for customers.
It does. So the third step is this. The next time you scope a project, just ask one simple question. Ask your team, what would it take to do this right, not just fast? And then you have to shut up and actually listen to the answer. You might have to reduce the scope or push the deadline, but what you're doing is protecting the standard. You are proving that quality is more than just a word you say.
Wow. Okay. This is so much more grounded than I expected. More than the grand gestures, it's about these small, consistent actions. Educating with real examples, focusing on one specific domain, and actually giving your team the time to do great work. Oh man, this is a lot to digest. Before we wrap this part up, Mark, can you just quickly tie all of that together for us? Give us the big picture summary of everything we've discussed.
Absolutely. Look, high standards aren't a personality trait you hire. They're a skill you have to teach. And you can't just talk about it. You have to show your team tangible examples of what great looks like in one specific domain that actually matters to your customer. Then you have to prove you're serious by giving them the time and resources to do that great work. You have to protect the process. That commitment, that's what your first customers feel. Not perfection, but your honest to God commitment. And that feeling, that is what starts the virtuous cycle of growth that no competitor can ever copy. It all starts with teaching, not demanding.
Wow. Okay, so after all of that, for the founder who's listening to this right now, who feels completely overwhelmed, what's the one mindset shift you hope they don't forget?
Stop thinking you need to demand high standards from your team. Instead, have a high standard for them. Believe they are capable of greatness, and then simply show them what greatness looks like and give them the room to get there. That's leadership, and it changes everything. The Marketing Execution Podcast is produced by Growth Stage Marketing. We are on a mission to see your company reach wild success using marketing pods.
Too big, accept dreams. Catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the marketing execution movement and community. To learn how growth stage marketing clients reach more buyers and drive business impact, go to growthstage.marketing. That's growthstage.marketing.